Hello everyone, welcome back to Real Reds Talk, your favourite football fan channel made in Manchester. Today we have a list of 5 individual players who could potentially replace the one and only Raphael Varane. So if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Do it right now. Smash a like on the video and get involved. Get your opinion in the comments section. And if you want to be extra nice, yeah, just give us some decent feedback. Anyway, time to dive into the list. Who do we think is going to be first? Up first, Jean-Clair Todibo. So we have to start with a young French centre-back for obvious reasons. United have been heavily linked with Jean-Clair Todibo, even more so now with Sir Jim Ratcliffe pulling strings behind the doors alongside Ineos. And that's not the only reason why we should be looking at this deal. So what type of player is Todibo? If you look at his individual qualities, he's renowned for his confidence and ability on the ball, which comes from his time spent as a holding midfield player in his youth career. So he takes a lot of touches for a defender, attempting 85 passes on average per game. That puts him with the top 5% of central defenders in Europe's top 5 leagues. He also averages an 89% pass completion rate, which is among the top 20%, and he also rates highly for progressive carries and successful take-ons. He possesses impressive strength. He knows how to defend in tight areas, and in wide areas, he can also attack very well for a defender. You only have to look to Nice's defensive record this season. They've got the best in the league, having let in just 25 goals in 32 matches, and Todibo is a massive part of that. They also had the second best defensive record last season too, despite finishing 9th in the table, while they had their joint best in Todibo's full campaign. But like the majority of players, unless you're Cristiano or Messi, there is room for improvement. While he's strong at tackling and interceptions, Todibo does score low in other areas associated with the kind of old school defending. He's quite bad in aerial duels, winning 1.53 per 90 minutes, which isn't great, especially when you have a potential centre-back alongside you, and Lisandro Martinez, who we know isn't great in the air, whilst he also has a low rate of clearances and blocks compared to other defenders, so a couple of things he needs to work on there. But what's interesting is we was looking at Todibo actually when Maguire looked like he was going to move last summer. Todibo got asked about a potential move, and he said, "I'm not going to lie and say I didn't tell myself that perhaps I should play in a top club, but there are also guarantees when playing at Nice. I experienced it differently from my previous situations in my career. My thinking was much more in-depth and thoughtful. I didn't want to make a mistake in my choice. I remained very calm. Reflection is more important than when I started. I'm waiting to be presented with the complete project." It's very clear the club Nice would not have sold me this summer. I've given it the links to United in-depth thought, and I remain calm. I didn't want to make the wrong choice. I expect to be presented with a full picture. Very demanding. What are you expecting from me? Why am I signing? You shouldn't arrive at a club asking yourself this. I know what I have in Nice, so why leave? Everything must be clear. It's time to negotiate. With the price tag around £40 million, which is a steal in my opinion, potential through the roof, seems like Ineos, Wilcox, Ashworth and Barada need to present this man with a plan and a project worth joining. I personally believe he would be a great signing and a great addition and a perfect replacement for Raphael Varane, not just because he's young and French, by the way. Also, just kind of sticking with that theme, I think it's an interesting point. You look at any French centre-backs in the top 5 leagues at the moment, it could be Kanate, Saliba, Upamecano, Hernandez, Jules Koundé, all in different leagues, all performing at a very top level. Now, French players, it seems like it's in the blood. Strong, quick, good on the ball. Doesn't mean guaranteed success, because there's probably a stinking centre-back out there that's French, stinking in terms of his ability. But something to consider, just maybe. Number 2, next up, Jarrad Branthwaite. There's a lot of talk going around about Branthwaite at the moment after his loan spells at PSV with a former player who we all know in Ruud van Nistelrooy. He's also had spells at other clubs as well, but no one cares about that. But this season, having cemented a solid central defensive partnership with James Tarkowski, Branthwaite has amassed a significant level of action in the Premier League, racking up a total of 2,250 minutes. He's become a mainstay in Everton's defence, imposing his physical frame. He stands tall at 6'5", making him a handful for attackers to bypass. He's proactive defensively, and for a young centre-back, he possesses intelligent positioning. As well as his decent ability in the air, Branthwaite's ground game has been a standout element for his defensive showings this season, having achieved 3.64 tackles and interceptions per 90, in addition to 5.76 ball recoveries on average each match. His explosive pace and extended reach are not normally highlighted as much when Everton sits deeper, but are extremely crucial when having to recover in transition. Now, is there room for improvement? A hallmark of an elite modern-day central defender is to have the ability to be effective in possession, whether it be through progressive carrying or top-level distribution. Whilst Branthwaite has shown glimpses of effectiveness whilst playing out from the back, it's an area of his game that would appear to benefit from further development. This begs the question or not whether Everton kind of become a hindrance to his ball-playing qualities. You saw much more of this, for example, when he was on loan at PSV in a ball-dominant side. Perhaps we would see more of this at Manchester United. So where to next for Branthwaite? In your cereal bowl with some milk. Due to Everton experience a period of financial scrutiny, the consensus would suggest that they may cash in on their young star, and he would certainly not come cheap. With this in mind, it is interesting to consider which sort of defensive systems and future clubs Branthwaite would be best suited to, and which could enhance his apparent flaws. His incredible versatility bodes well, of course, for any team interested, willing to invest a large fee, who can play numerous roles at a high standard. I mean, you read any of the papers, Twitter, Facebook, so wherever you want to go, it's obvious he's a standout option to represent Ineos's kind of youthful rebuild. Obviously, they've got a desire to invest in this kind of young talent, and he seems like a main priority target at the moment. You can't get away from it. I think if you bring him in, he can display how effective he really can be in a ball-dominant side, with the potential to sit much higher up the pitch and showcase his qualities. I also think United fans will find comfort in his electric pace. He's very quick. He's bailed him out of numerous dangerous scenarios, and the sweeping tendencies of Andre Onana, for example, would marry that perfectly, allowing the Englishman to remain proactive in his pressing efforts and inject life into the United defence. Now, Branthwaite's ball progression would certainly be an alarming aspect for Erik ten Hag if you just look at his pure metrics, but with his talent using both feet, he could easily partner with a much more progressive defender like Lisandro Martinez by playing on the right side of the defence, where he is also comfortable. They would complement each other really well. I thought the quote from Pat Nevin was very interesting. He said, Jarrad Branthwaite is the most outstanding prospect in his position in world football, and has compared the Blues' breakthrough start of the season to Liverpool captain Virgil van Dijk. In principle, he has everything to become one of the top defenders in the world. I'm very happy for him and also for Everton, because he'll be a very valuable player in the near future. If I was looking at any young centre-back on the planet just now, I'd look at Jarrad Branthwaite first. Now, that's a big statement, a big call, but honestly, he has grown so quick. Time to negotiate. With a price tag of £55 million rising to 70 if Everton get their way, United need a huge revamp in that back line, and he could be one for the next 5, 6, 7, dare I say it, 10 years. If we can get him for the right price, then I'd definitely consider him, but I just don't want to overpay when you consider the spending gap that we've got, this summer. It's going to be very restricted and limited, especially if we don't get any Europe whatsoever. So will Manchester United push the boat out for him, and would you go get him? Number 3, Leny Yoro, next up on the list for potential replacements. And yes, we have another French young centre-back from Liga 1, but this kid, set for big things, with a lot of clubs in Europe interested. For anyone asking what kind of player he is, basically just to give you a bit of a run through, Yoro had a breakout season, taking over Jose Font, the experienced Jose Font in the backline for Lille, and has virtually started every game since. From experienced coaches in the French league, they've drawn comparisons to the likes of Saliba and Fofana in terms of their trajectory. Now, Yoro's out of possession qualities are generally where the centre-back stands out most prominently, and what really makes him so highly sought after. He's also heavily involved in his side's possession play, but doesn't profile as much as a ball progressor. However, he's very reliable on the ball, committing relatively few errors for a young player, and generally remains calm under pressure. He doesn't engage a ton, and he's undoubtedly a more passive type of centre-back who prefers to provide cover and hang back rather than dart out of the back line and go all crazy and force the engagement. He relies a lot on his high sense of positional awareness, ability to read the game, and technical skills when performing tackles. As always, there's something to improve on. When Yoro is forced into an engagement in the attacker's terms rather than his own, he isn't as comfortable, can struggle a little bit, looks a little bit panicked, doesn't like moments of chaos, which, if you're going to Manchester United, doesn't fucking bode well, given the way this season's gone. This can occur, if his team lose the ball deep, for example, when trying to play out from the back in defensive transitions, he can get caught on his heels a little bit. But we're talking about an 18-year-old kid. There's going to be some rawness, and he will develop with time and experience. Fabrizio Romano put a tweet out recently saying Real Madrid are sending their scouts regularly to France in order to monitor Leny Yoro. He's one of the main targets for the present and the future. Real insisting they're aware of other clubs interested, included obviously Paris Saint-Germain are interested, the monopolisation of the French league, working on it since January. So it's obvious Leny Yoro is highly sought after due to the unique traits he possesses as a composed central defender who specialises in covering as more the passive centre-back in a back two, probably alongside a more aggressive partner or potentially a central defender in a back three. He reads the game to an extremely high level for an 18-year-old, possesses an excellent ability to position himself and shape his body correct in the right ways, which it makes him look more seasoned. I feel like the signing is very unlikely for us, though. I have to say that in the position that we're currently in, but it's not to say that we shouldn't be going for him or shouldn't be trying, because his ceiling is high, like the Sistine Chapel. Number 4, Tosin Adarabioyo. This one is the wild card, the out there pick, the free agent, but it doesn't mean that he's the worst player out of the bunch that I've picked. The reasons just stated, Adarabioyo is an impressive defender looking to take a step up with any club currently interested. And Newcastle, one of our closest rivals at the moment, being one of them, and they're able to offer stability, guaranteed game time, who the next manager is going to be, and 100k a week, which is pretty difficult to compete with at the moment, given United's situation. But he is Manchester born. Jason Wilcox knows him very well from working with him at Manchester City's academy. So it's not just over yet. Let's just consider him and let's dive into what type of a player he is. I think it helps when he's Manchester born and raised as well, just saying. So what type of player is Tosin Adarabioyo? Tosin was an England youth international at under 16, 17, 18 and 19 levels. At Fulham, he's been integral to 2 promotion seasons and their survival in the Premier League so far under Marco Silva. Obviously, they've pushed a little bit more up the table since then. You know, when you compare him to other English centre-backs, which this is the one that I thought was interesting, Consort, Dunk, Gay, Maguire, Colwell, he performs better than all of them in most important metrics defensively, yet never received a call-up for the England team, which a lot of people think is very bizarre. When we take a closer look at his metrics, very impressive. He's won more defensive duels, 67.37% than anyone else. Interceptions per 90 minutes, 1.5. Clearances per 90 minutes, 4.99. And that's more than all of them. And he's also more headed clearances per 90 minutes than any other Premier League centre-back to have played more than 4 games. At 6'5", he's also capable of handling himself in duels very well and one-on-one situations. Interceptions and reading the game to snuff out opposition's attacks are viewed as key staples in this lad's game. He's also comfortable on the ball as well as, coming up through the City Academy. You're not going to be no stooge, are you? You're going to know how to play ball. But actually, is there room for improvement with Tosin Adarabioyo? I don't, from what I've seen and scout reports I've read, I don't believe there are any outstanding weaknesses, personally. I mean, sure, he's made a mistake or two, gets caught a couple of times. That's, that can be in anyone's game, but he's pretty solid in all areas at a good level, I'd say. Not an elite level, but at a good level all around, he's decent. With that said, you have to kind of caveat that with a step up to United is a completely different scenario. Rival fans might joke to you and say it's only 3 steps, it's Fulham, you're not even too far away from us in the table. But the pressure, the expectation, the amount of games is just miles different to what you would get at Fulham. It's just as simple as that. I don't think he would be an instant starter personally, but we need depth there. We need 2 centre-backs. Everybody knows that. So a free agent, he needs to box clever in this summer window. Something to think about. So his manager got asked about his potential move and the situation. He said he'll probably not be at the club next season, but he remains a part of the first team for now. Last weekend, my decision was a technical decision. I know all the noise around him and his future, of course. Of course, I've been speaking with him. I have a really close relationship, with all the players, and everything is clear between myself and him, like all the other players, and from him to me and my staff as well. If Tosin is going to be on the pitch, he'll be on the pitch. Nothing has changed from last week, so obviously keeping his cards close, but the inevitable seems pending. But for a summer wherein he also looked to box clever, like I just mentioned, signed quite a few additions, someone like Tosin Adarabioyo wouldn't necessarily be a direct replacement for Raphael Varane, but with the centre-backs that potentially leave, and you could have Maguire that leaves, Raphael Varane's definitely going, Lindelof might want time elsewhere. Other centre-backs that I can't even think about at the moment are probably going. So, yeah, and can Lissandro stay fit as well? You're going to need depth in that area, and a lot of them don't come very cheap. So why not take Tosin on as a free agent? No-brainer, in my opinion. And last one, number 5. I can't pronounce his name. Gleison Bremer. I'm gonna go with. I know it's definitely Bremer or Bremer. It might actually. I don't know. I'm panicking. Number 5. This dude, a Juventus defender. We all know the Italian top division is famous for producing some of the best defenders about the world has seen. The technical game, defensive play that's played in Italy has just raised the level of so many players that have gone there. You talk about players like Bonucci, Chiellini, Maldini, Nesto, Thuram, Lucio. I mean, you could just go on for days and days and days. They are pristine for they're known for the defending. It's, you know, if you know Italian football, that is what they are built on. And I think this player is a prime example of that. Bring it back to the modern day, and they're still producing top-class centre-backs. Maybe not to the elite level of the players that I've just mentioned, because they're some of the best ever to do it, but they've still got some very good defenders on the books. Now, Gleison Bremer of Brazil is one player who's looking to establish himself with the best players in these positions. The 27-year-old came to Italy and joined Juventus rivals Torino. Juventus came to sign him last summer. The team had a bit of a disappointing season, but he proved his worth in the heart of that defence. This season, he's a regular in the squad. He's playing nearly every single game and starting to catch the attention of many clubs. So what type of player is Bremer, do you ask? He has all the attributes of a top defender: strength, speed, aerial prowess. He also reads the game brilliantly and rarely comes out second best in 1v1 duels. He's an absolute beast on the field when it comes to winning the ball. He just looks like a bull. Never breaks off from any challenge. Has a really impressive dual win rate to his name and plays in the centre-back of a back three and can also feature on the left-hand side. His ability to engage and win defensive 1v1 situations is top elite level. Shows high value and reliability. Could test around 7.1 defensive duels per 90 minutes and has a 75% success rate. This is the reason why, you know, he's highly rated for winning defensive duels. His aerial presence and effectiveness is crucial for defending set pieces and crosses. And once again, he's one of the best in the business when it comes to this. He can test around 4.9 aerial duels per 90 minutes and has won 63% of these duels. So go buy him. Why not? Let me tell you. So for a team looking to sign Bremer, knows he can carry the ball from defence to midfield. He's not involved a lot in the passing, but has a decent average of 46.85 passes per 90 minutes. He delivers 90% of his passes, and around 3 passes are delivered to the final third per 90. So again, not amazing statistics for anyone who can read into that. He's not the most progressive player. However, one kind of shiny accolade that you want to throw in there with him: Torino climbed up to 10th in the 21-22 season, and Bremer was named as the best defender in Serie A, which was fully deserved at the time. And you can kind of see how his qualities would marry Manchester United and how they would fit that. You know, look at his qualities at the other end of the pitch. You know, our side struggle to score from set pieces on a regular basis, but Bremer carries a genuine goal threat from corners and free kicks. He's got sharp instincts in the box and looks the ideal fit for English football. But what am I going to say? There is always room for improvement. Despite his considerable strengths that I've just absolutely been pushing in front of your face, he's only won 4 caps for Brazil to date, and that is probably because he's not really, like I said, a ball-playing centre-back. I think he struggles a little bit with his discipline as well. He's given fouls in dangerous areas before. He's rated above average for giving away free kicks. The player averages 1.5 fouls per 90 minutes, and that's something he can definitely work on. I think the former Torino interim boss, Moreno Longo, summed his style up perfectly during an interview. He said, if I was a coach of these teams, I'd look for the type of defender. He has an overwhelming physicality. He defends in the open field without fear of having 40, 50 metres behind him, and he plays dominant football. I would always want that. I think he's the best defender I've ever coached, and I've worked with some good ones, such as Cristian Romero. Bremer is spectacular. He always wants to improve, and he's worked so much on his technique. He is devastating defensively and can still improve. So the Brazilian defender could be sold in the upcoming transfer window, provided Juventus receive a fee of 60 million euros. That's according to Italian outlets. There is a clause in the player's existing deal which allows him to leave the club for 60 million euros in 2025. However, the Serie A giants will accept a similar offer this summer as they need funds for other deals, struggling financially. He has gone on record before the player himself saying, I like La Liga and the Premier League, but the Premier League is a very exciting championship and I watch a lot of matches. They are very entertaining. One day I would like to play there. Look, I personally think Juventus are going to really drive a hard bargain here, even though they need the money. I understand. I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze necessarily. If we can get a good deal for him, I'd potentially consider it. But I'm just sceptical because you always have the unknown of transferring leagues from Serie A to the Premier League specifically. I mean, in fairness, if you ask yourself now, is there a current centre-back who's moved from that league who plays for a top 4 club at the moment? I can't think of one off the top of my head. The transition historically isn't great. It's usually when our players go there, they start to flourish because the level's a little bit lower. I'm just not sure about one coming here and adapting to the Premier League. It's very, very different. It's not to automatically say that Bremer wouldn't flourish in the Premier League, but I do think it carries a bit of a risk. With that said, he has good qualities. He's only 27 years old. And he's just about to step into his prime. This could be something to look at. And apparently Juventus would take Mason Greenwood as a bit of a make weight to drop the price down to around £30 million. So if you take that into consideration, it's not a bad deal at all, which would be a decent deal and your kind of base of the Ineos summer for 2024 as the heart of that defence. Gleison Bremer. So what do we do then? There's 5 outstanding candidates that I've just put on a list for you guys to pick, or maybe you have someone else in mind. Is centre-back also the biggest priority for you heading into this summer? How would you personally budget in terms of which ones would you go for? Which ones would you spend more money on? Let's just say. Let me know in the comments and let's have a discussion. Also, if you could be so kind, please do leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 10k and we need you lovely individuals to help us achieve that. And yeah, keep an eye out for more content coming in the next couple of days. 2 lives a day. Plenty of stuff ongoing at the moment. What will be next?